In the spotlight tonight, road rage is turning into air rage. Apparently, some of those angry drivers who honk their horns and shake their fists and do worse to other drivers are actually on their way to the airport, where they bring their rage with them onto airplanes. The latest rage issue for airline travelers is how far you recline your seat. Here's NBC News correspondent Katie Tur.
For two passengers on United Flight 1462 from Newark to Denver, a spat over 5 inches of extra space was all it took to force an emergency landing in Chicago. And it all began with a $22 gadget called the Knee Defender.
It keeps people from reclining.
Specially designed for coach class flyers who need protection from reclining seats. Officials say a man seated in Economy Plus was using the device, which attaches to the tray table, to stop the woman in front of him from reclining her seat, try as she might.
A woman put her seat back into the guy and he shoved it forward, and then she threw her drink on him.
Halfway through the flight, the pilot landed the plane. The two unruly passengers escorted off by police. While the FAA doesn't prohibit devices like the Knee Defender, most airlines, including United, have banned them.
That was NBC News' Katie Tur. Joining me now is Sara Nelson, a flight attendant with United Airlines and president of the Association of Flight Attendants, and Josh Barro, correspondent for the New York Times and an MSNBC contributor. Sara Nelson, I've been in United Economy Plus. There's a lot of extra room in those seats. I've flown across the country in those seats. It just seems outrageous to me that that guy would be fighting for any incursion into his little space, into his large space there.
Well, what's also outrageous, Lawrence, is that flight attendants have to deal with conflict like this every single day on our aircraft.
Yeah.
And flights are fuller than they have ever been before. And passengers are fighting for space, and they're fighting for their own personal space on board the aircraft. We have to de-escalate every single day.
Josh Barro, it's tough enough up there for people like Sara Nelson trying to keep order in an aircraft, and now you have this company which is selling and marketing disorder in aircraft.
Yeah, and they've been saying that, you know, all the interest that this news story has created has caused a spike in sales of the Knee Defender. But I mean, look, I think these fights could be avoided if we all understood a simple rule, which is that one of the things you pay for when you pay your airfare is for the right to recline your seat. That's why there's a button on your armrest allowing you to do that. And I understand some people don't like it when the seat in front of them reclines, but that's something that maybe you can politely discuss with the passenger in front of you. I wrote a piece saying, you know, if you really care that much, maybe offer the passenger in front of you some money to not recline his seat, to give up that right that he paid for when he bought the airline ticket. But, you know, you're not entitled to just modify the seat of that person in order to prevent them from using it as intended.
The Chicago police, the plane made this emergency landing in Chicago. TSA officers met the flight, and there were no charges brought, they said, because it was just a customer service issue. Sara Nelson, it was a customer service issue. All the customers on that flight had their flight and their day, and probably more than their day, ruined by this guy who brought this banned device, banned by United Airlines, onto that plane.
Yeah, Lawrence, you know, I've been on thousands of flights, and I've said thousands of times, sit back, relax, and enjoy your flight to Denver. I mean Chicago, because someone's not going to comply with the flight attendant instructions that are federal regulations, and someone else is going to throw water in his face, and we're going to inconvenience 200 passengers because we have to get on the ground because there's a major serious threat on board that could compromise the safety of the flight. So this is serious stuff. Passengers have to comply with instructions from the flight attendants. And I've talked to several flight crew who have encountered these knee defenders. And in every case, they say that they have been able to get the passenger to remove them from the seat. So Josh has a point, but we also have the point that passengers are fighting for space on board the aircraft every single day. This is just conflict that's being created. We have fewer staff on board than ever with the flight attendants trying to deal with these situations. And we have contract negotiations that are protracted so that flight attendants are not being compensated fairly for this work that they're doing every day that is getting harder and harder.
And a couple of airlines have solved the problem by preventing their seats from reclining at all. Josh Barro, that's what we're being driven to here with this kind of madness in the air.
Well, not only that, but on Spirit, the seats that don't recline are also only 28 inches apart, as opposed to the 31 to 33 that's typical on other airlines. So yeah, I believe Spirit, they like to claim that their seats are pre-reclined. Which is the polite way of saying that they don't recline at all. But you also have increasing options in coach on airplanes. United, American, and Delta all have these options where you can pay, typically somewhere between $20 and $60 for additional legroom. And so if you're one of these people who really deeply cares about whether your knees are going to be impacted by the seat in front of you, you have that option increasingly on flights. Although I guess as we saw in this case, some people take that option. It's still not enough for them, and you can still get these conflicts.
Well, there's been a lot of laughing about this story today, as if it's just, one of those crazy things that happen in the sky. But if you were on that plane or a plane like it with your baby who you were trying to get home, and one of these wise guys with the knee defender brought your plane down, as happened here, there'd be nothing to laugh about. And Sara Nelson, I really wish your employer, I wish United Airlines would sue this passenger for the costs, all of the costs, fuel costs, everything that was involved in having to land that plane in Chicago and then get all of those passengers to Denver. And I wish every one of the passengers on the plane would sue that guy with the knee defender. They all have a claim.
Well, that's right, and it should be a real concern for anyone who's flying, because if you're not complying with flight attendant instructions, you could find yourself with a fast track down to an airport you didn't intend to land at, and you're not going to go on. And you may be facing federal fines up to $25,000. So this is very serious. Passengers should take it seriously. And thank goodness, Lawrence, a year ago, we were talking about keeping knives off the airplane. So let's be really happy that the woman had water and not a knife. And we need Congress to pass the Keep Knives Out of Our Skies Act so that we don't ever have to have that battle again. But this is serious, you're right, and we need to take it seriously. And I think that people need to understand that there could be serious consequences if they engage in this kind of activity and they don't comply with the flight crew instructions.
And Josh Barro, there's an element of bullying in this. I'm going to sit here because I'm over 6 feet tall. I mean, this guy's claim is he's over 6 feet tall. He has to defend his knees. I'm over 6 feet tall, and I've had these recline seats, come in, and yeah, I wish they weren't there. I also know that I have no choice. There's nothing I can do about it. I bought this seat, and oh, by the way, the contract in that ticket says I obey the rules of the airline.
Well, and also he's over 6 feet tall, but he's in a row that has 36 inches of seat pitch.
Right.
More
There's
than
plenty
normal,
of room in that section of the plane.
Yeah. So no, I think it is an element of bullying, but on the other hand, this woman then turned around and threw water at him, which I think is not an acceptable behavior on an airplane, even if somebody is being very unpleasant behind you. So I think I think there's plenty of blame to go around here, but I think again this fighting arises out of the ambiguity that both people feel like they have the property right in the position of the seat. People who don't want the seat reclined feel like they are entitled to have an upright seat in front of them. People who do want to recline feel like they are entitled to recline. And I think if we could get people on the same page, they don't have to like the position of the seat, but if at least they understand that one or the other of these is the norm, then we wouldn't have to have these disputes.
Well, there is some shared blame here, but I am adjudging most of it to go to the guy with the knee defender. I would get those people off the planes. This thing is a horrible thing. It's ruining air travel. Josh Barro and Sara Nelson, thank you both very much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence.